Hello, welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 146. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With us this week is Messiah.
Hello.
And Isley was out doing some work stuff last night, socializing, so he probably won't be in this episode, which is all right. We don't have too much to go over, and we'll probably just a bunch of Baldur's Gate 3 talk, and who knows if he had more time to spend on that. But yeah, the first bit of news that I saw this week was from Fnatic, or sorry, not... they're not Fnatic. They're Fntastic. There we go. My bad. The people behind the day before, they got taken offline and everything. It was total trash show. But then, they had this weird statement online where they said, there was a misinformation and hate campaign that was put against the game for some reason. And,
Yeah,
because...
sure.
Yeah, people making money. And it's okay, yeah, whatever. But then what was funny is he had another quote that said, by the way, after sales closed, many people wrote to us that bloggers had deceived them and that they liked the game and they asked for access. We also heard that petitions were created to continue development. And on the black market, the game's price exceeded $200. And some even began to make their own mods. And I'm like, that sounds so much like a Donald Trump saying, many people are saying, it's a great game. Wow. We should keep going. And it's what? Who is saying this? Are you kidding me? It's I don't think so. But it's just a bizarre, weird thing to say. Oh yeah, I've heard that a lot of people really love it. And on the black market, it's $200.
Yeah, okay. Maybe for somebody trying to sell an unused key for the game to archivists or something, no.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird. But and then the other bit of news we got is that Hogwarts Legacy, when it launched, had some PlayStation exclusive content, but soon that content will be available for other platforms as well, not just people who bought it on PlayStations. It'll be coming to Switch and Xbox and Series X and sometime this summer. So not right away, but it'll be coming soon. I'm not sure exactly how extensive the side quest content is, but it is content that's locked behind a platform. So that's good to see. And then, of course, we had some new releases. We won't be talking about this because none of us play the games, but obviously, Power World came out, I think, early access earlier on last week. I think right before we recorded, but then it's been out for a week and everybody's been kind of playing. It's on Xbox Game Pass. It's on PC as well. But then Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth came out this week, and then coming up is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which I believe has early access availability on Monday. So tomorrow, from the day this post, it should be up. But IGN had said, hey, we didn't get review codes for this game, so our review won't be up right away. So I'm that doesn't sound like a good thing that they didn't get review codes early enough for this game. So I'm curious to see how it's going to do, because that's a game I didn't play the Batman Arkham games. I know they're beloved, but I just didn't care. And then this game just has been such a weird dev cycle, I feel where people are not really looking forward to it. And they're kind of worried about it being a games as a service type game and yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see. And I know they showed it. The other thing too that's weird is they showed a trailer. So they brought in talk about Elseworlds. I guess the multiverse is going to exist within the Arkham universe of games, and so they talk about you can get there's an Elseworlds Joker that will be joining the team later on. So they show their Joker design, and it's I always feel so few heroes have multiple iterations like Batman, right? It's just okay, it's Batman, and then you have your favorites, which actor played them the best, and then you have the same with Spider-Man. Not many different iterations. It's still the same story with Spider-Man, but I feel Joker, there's so many. That one sees the most variance between versions of it, be it in games, animation, or film. And it's so weird when everyone's so quick to criticize a design. It's well, you can't just they're not going to come out and do the same Joker in the Arkham games because, spoilers, he's dead. And it's they're not going to he's not going to look like Heath Ledger. He's not going to look like Jack Nicholson. They got to do something. Yeah. And then it's so weird that people are always quick to jump on and give their hot take on it anytime there's a new Joker. That's just the nature of that character. I feel like every time you do it, you got to do something different. So it's now they're doing, at least it's someone who they've done it before in their other games, and now they can do a different version. So it's still within the same studio. You know what I mean? The same creators are making, just change it, versus it being an entirely different studio doing another version of the Joker. So it's I feel like, come on, give him some slack. Plus it's like, I don't know, man. You got to let it go at some point and just be like, hey, this character, whether or not you love a villain or what have you, just keep your favorite. But a new one's not going to ruin your childhood. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
anyways.
and nobody ever criticizes the fact that like Batman literally always looks the same because there's not much you can do with that character design, It's
Mm-hmm.
just, all black suit with a cape and a mask. Whereas like with Joker, there's a lot that you can do while still keeping it recognizable. I mean, the Heath Ledger Joker was, at least that I've seen, the furthest departure to what I grew up with, but he still had like the purple coat and the makeup and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So it's like, and the green hair. So it's
Yeah.
like, just because you can vary it a little bit more, it seems like drastically different from iteration to iteration. But if they came out with like a different type of Batman, then I mean, I guess I kind of remember when shit, what was it, that cartoon? Batman Beyond came out and it was like futuristic kind of
Mm-hmm.
Batman and it didn't have that initial silhouette over. People were just like, I don't know, kind of just looks like uh
Skinny jeans Batman.
yeah, like Nighthawk or whatever, and then Nighthawk was in that show and they're like, oh, okay, I see now, it's just like the style of the show. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, people will find a reason to complain.
Yeah. Because, yeah, with Batman, like the most you can do is like small variations to the costume, right? Like
Mhm.
Clooney's nipple Batman's like famous for like, oh, it's the nipples. But then it's like people love like the small details in like Robert Pattinson's Batman outfit. Like, oh, the little bits there look cool. But like, yeah, there's the design's very similar. Like, not much you can change
Mhm.
versus what you could do with the Joker because you got so many different hair styles and length and whatnot. But yeah, it's just people are always like, I don't know, they get too attached, man. You gotta let it go.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. There will never be a better Joker than Mark Hamill Joker, so it all doesn't matter.
Yeah. Um, and then let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. So Skull and Bones, there's going to be a Skull and Bones open beta ahead of release, so that'll be on February 8th through 11th. I think there were some more previews that went out from some outlets who had played some later content for it, since that game's coming up so close to release. But yeah, that's a game I'm really curious how the final product, because I enjoyed. Well, I'm not supposed to talk about it, but at this point, open beta's been out. But like when I played the closed alpha, like I enjoy what I played outside of the fact it had the freaking text on the screen the whole time I played to
Oh,
prevent
yeah.
leaks. But yeah, it was so weird to play because it's like just an overlay of like 6 lines of my name plus the key for my closed alpha just covering it. It's like there's no way you could leak the gameplay and then not know who it was. But it was just like kind of hard to play through that. I think I played a little bit more when they had the second round of it, which I think got rid of because it was an open beta at that point, not the closed alpha, and that removed it, and that was a much better experience, obviously, because I'm not getting bombarded with text. But yeah, I'm curious about the final product, and not sure if I'll pick it up right away. But I liked what I played. I feel like that could be a really fun. We talked about relaxing games, and I feel like
Mhm.
that could be a fun, relaxing game. Like just go open ocean, do some pirate stuff, and
Yeah.
'cause that's what people did with like Sea of Thieves, right? It's like that became like a fun little relaxed game you play with your friends. You could play solo, so I feel like you could do something similar with this one.
Yeah, it seems like a very Sea of Thieves similar vibe where it's like it can be as relaxing or as chaotic as you make it.
Yeah. And then next we have some. There's been a lot of layoffs this year. We haven't really talked about them because they've been so rapid fire and just so many between each week that it was like, okay, it's kind of hard to talk about each of these. But a big one that happened this week. Well, before the big one, I did see that People Can Fly suffered some layoffs. About 30 people from that studio got laid off, as apparently they were working on the upcoming Project Gemini game from them. So we'll see. And then a further 20 staff working on the game, which was being created in partnership with Square Enix, were apparently shifted to other projects within the studio. So that's a project. I really liked Outriders. I had a lot of fun with it. And I was kind of hoping it was a pretty big game when it came out because it came out like that February time. It was on Game Pass. I don't think it was on PlayStation Plus, but like it wasn't a games as a service. It's like, here's a bunch of content, play it, and they came out with DLC. I never did play the DLC, the expansion they had for it, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I know a lot of people played it when it came out because there was like nothing around it at the time. It was like one of those great like Game Pass games as well. But yeah, it's I was wondering if they were going to do like an Outriders 2, and obviously they had that other project. Who knows what happened there? But yeah, it's tough because obviously they're under Embracer, of course, and they're another group that's been laying off a bunch of people as well. But then we also had Microsoft laying off 1,900 people across Activision, Blizzard, King, and other Microsoft studios. Now that they've finished their acquisition of Activision, Blizzard, King, so it's like people assumed it was going to happen, but
Yeah.
1,900 is still an insane amount of people. But what was interesting is apparently the team that was working on that survival game that Blizzard had announced is basically all but canceled because the bulk of that team got let go, which is so weird because I'm like, that's not a case of redundancy. Like I understand from a business standpoint why you'd get rid of redundancy, but you just got rid of an entire team working on a project. So was it not coming together? Did Phil look at it and be like, nah, this just ain't it, bro? And then cut it? Like, it's so weird that you would just, the whole point of the acquisition is, well, you want King for the mobile stuff, but also to get that IP to put on the Game Pass. And Blizzard making a new IP is something that's, doesn't happen often. It's just weird that, yeah, they let a bunch of them go. And then there's also rumors or on Twitter from someone saying that they've heard that a bunch of their physical media logistics team who like work on getting games into stores has been let go as well. Now it's possible that could be outsourced, and there could be a lot of outsourcing of jobs in this case for the people that they're letting go for some of these back end stuff outside of the game devs. But people start taking that rumor as, oh, they're going to be doing all digital because of that leak of the digital Xbox Series X that we saw back from the lawsuit. And it's like, okay, I don't know if I'll jump to that conclusion, but it is, man, 1,900 people is so much. That's just a lot of people, man.
It's a huge chunk to just let go once, especially from like you said, teams that were working on something without announcing like, hey, we're canceling this thing. Just letting go the whole team, basically. Like, oh, okay, I guess that's not being worked on, or are you putting a different team on it? That doesn't really make any sense. And I saw a lot of people speculating or like rumors flying around. I don't know if it was rumors or if somebody had a source or something. It just was a lot going on Twitter at the time of like, oh, Best Buy and Target are getting rid of their physical media sections for video games, and that's why they cut this whole thing for it's just so much. And I think Riot had a big layoff too.
Yeah. I was about to say, yeah, a bunch of the League of Legends folks got let go. I saw that one show up on my timeline a bunch as well, or not my timeline, but my For You page, which is a bunch of people from the league layoff.
I saw Jason Schreier's tweet about it, and then somebody replied that like just in January we're at 60% of the total layoffs of last year combined. Like, and it's just January. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, like, especially, and people always bring up too, like, you just became like a $3 trillion company.
Yeah,
because
like, why are you laying off all these people that you paid for?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, man. It's pretty it's nuts. Just how many
it's a little dismal.
Laid off. Yep. Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be more. Which again, it's because it's been so many. It's been hard to really like cover them all.
Yeah.
Because just how much there is. But when this one hit, I was like, this one's huge. Like, this will probably be the cap off to the end of January, and then who knows what the hell is going to happen. Like, because there was that leak when Insomniac got hacked, and there was questions in there about, or like I think it was emails about Sony looking to close margins and how there could be some layoffs. And I don't know if necessarily at Insomniac or just at PlayStation Studios in general, which is if they're not doing the numbers, like, that's that's what businesses do, man. They just like, all right, we gotta, what's our GMI? And then
Mm-hmm.
like, where can we get rid of some people and close up ranks and yada yada. It's like I'm sure we're gonna see something from Sony this year as well. Probably not nearly as big as Microsoft, but I'm sure we'll probably see some. Because Bungie's already concerned about it, like with the performance of the way we talked about it back when we talked about Destiny 2 and their concerns for performance. And if right now they're still kind of independent while they're part of Sony's group, but there could be in that like a clause in that agreement, like, hey, if you underperform by too much, then we're going to take complete control, and then they could probably clean up the house and get rid of people and yada yada, but which would be not great. But
Which is so stupid because, like, how do you expect them to turn it around if you get rid of, 50% of their team and be like, okay, now produce something that is going to make us money again? And they're like, well, you got rid of all of our programmers, so what do you want us to do? Like, it just seems so, it's just, I don't know. It just seems so stupid to me to be like, oops, we're underperforming. Guess we'll just fire a bunch of people now. Make something that makes us money. With what?
right,
With
yeah,
who? What do you mean?
exactly. That because that's the quote that because everybody talks about, that goes back to that Nintendo thing about when the Wii U was underperforming, and the not cutting employees. There's another quote. It's like
Oh,
it's better.
Iwata.
Yeah, it's like him taking the price cut. But there was another quote with it, because people were just mainly retweeting that he took the cut, yada yada. He took the hit, like, hey, underperform, I'll take the cut. But there's another line there, something about, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but it basically like, it's better to have people work through the problem who feel safe in their position versus fear of being let go, because
Yeah.
you can't recover from the lull if people are scared for their jobs. And like, that's true. It's like, how are you supposed to, oh, we gotta, let's rally the team, all right guys, let's have a good 2024. You can't do that, have the attitude when people are scared that they're going to get laid off. Like, you gotta reassure them.
Yeah, and nobody looks at the picture of like, oh, well, the Wii U underperformed, so their top executives took a pay cut, so that nobody get fired, and then they came out with the Switch.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah,
the company turned it around and did something innovative, and it's like, I don't know. It's
yeah,
I don't want to say it's the difference between like Eastern and Western companies, because obviously Sony is kind of both sort of
hmm,
thing, but and I mean there's Japanese companies that do the same thing that Microsoft is doing right now, where they just like fire all their people, Konami.
hmm.
But I don't know, it just seems like maybe you should listen to the successful people in the business on how they run their companies. You
Yeah,
would think.
yeah. It definitely feels like it is kind of like, might not be East versus West mentality, but it does feel like, the West mentality is fully 100% like, oh, keep the execs, don't let, like, it's like, well, there are some instances where I've seen in the company I work for where some things have gone poorly, and they, some big things have gone pretty bad, and they did let go some of the like, not super high ranking folks, but some of the high ranking folks versus
Hmm.
the smaller people on the team. Like, they just let them go, and like, okay, this person's gone, or someone made a huge mistake. And it's like, okay, they are gone. And
Yeah,
because that,
punish the person who made the mistake, not the people
yeah,
that run the company.
yeah. So they did that, but yeah, it's still pretty rare. I'm still trying to remember that one company that I always think about, that some people do bring up, but I think I can't remember the name of the guy who runs it. I keep wanting to say Dan Price. I don't know if that's right, but it's like some company in Washington, I think, or whatever, where like the CEO, like, he sets his salary, like, cap, like, super low, so as the CEO, so the employees could have better cost of living pay, and like, it encouraged, yeah, it's Dan Price. Yeah, he's like, they pay like a really high, like, minimum wage to their employees and stuff like that, and then like, it
Hmm.
worked really well, and like, it allowed people to, like, have a family and buy homes in the area and stuff like that. Like, because that's, you know, money is a big factor. But yeah. Anyways, it was like I think it was Gravity was the name of the company, but and there's like a lot of people saying like, oh, there's no way he'll be able to do this and yada yada, and then like years later after that, it works fine. Like people love working there and this and that, but
Yeah, I mean, that's how you retain your company and get them to do better and motivate them, is give them money to live where they work.
yeah.
But I mean, that's like a piece of a broader problem, not just games industry specifically. But I feel like games industry suffers from it the most because it's a creative industry. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to be creative when you could be fired at any point, but you could be fired even if you're the only person doing your specific job at the company. Like,
Yeah.
you're the only you're the only concept artist on a project or something like that, and it's like, oh well, instead of having you do concept art for something else, we're just going to fire you, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. It's got and what was worse too is like I saw people who from the Microsoft layoffs where they're like, so Blizzard enforces, no more working from home. You made me move out to California, and then a month later you fired me.
Yeah.
It's just like, and that's the problem too. Is people don't, when they let go, it's a pure numbers game. People don't actually look at the details. We had that happen where like, you know, the company that became the owners of the place I work at. They needed to. There are some issues with one, like the biggest portion of the company, and so they wanted to quote unquote right the ship, and they let go of someone who worked not directly with me, but they did like an important role, and they're just gone, and they were like not a senior player, but they've been there like a long time. It's like, okay, maybe it makes sense from they make a lot of money. We can get someone else to come in at a lower price to do it. But at the meantime, they're like, oh, you take on their workload. I'm like, I can't do my job and their job. Like
Yeah.
this isn't going, like they don't think about that. And then we had one where it's like, oh, they want to do like a consolidation of warehouses where it's like we were selling stuff out of Santa Rosa or out of California and stuff out of Virginia. And I'm like, oh, maybe we could save money by doing a warehouse consolidation. We just move all the product to one site, and then all the sales go out of there. That way, because we just had it split because that's how the companies were before the major acquisition. And like, oh, maybe it'll save money because it just goes out of one location. All the sales can still be from two different sites, so because of that, it's like we're going to let go of the warehouse team at California because it's all going to consolidate to Virginia. And so they're like, okay, they came in, and my boss at the time, or my boss's boss, who was like the leader of the team I'm on, basically came in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, was telling me about like, hey, this is the plan we're going to do. So we're going to let these people go, yada, yada. And this, I'm like, all of them? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what about, and like one of the people that are going to let go doesn't technically work for the main team. Like, oh, we're letting him go too. I'm like, you are? I'm like, then who's going to do XYZ, which is like other stuff they did outside of what they thought. And then they ended up reversing for that person because they're like, oh, well, we can't get rid of them because they don't, while maybe in HR, it looks like they work for that department. They didn't. So
Yeah.
it's just like it's like the system wasn't ever updated. It's like people had no idea what they do as their job. So it's just like it's like you gotta like really look at it, man, and dig into it. But it was just like it was nuts. And yeah, when it comes to like, I'm sure for companies it's like any sort of GMI savings and whatnot, it's like there's such a rush too of like get it done. Everything's so surface level. And maybe that's so they don't look at the human factor of it, I guess. I don't know. It's like
Mm-hmm.
when it's just a number on a sheet, they could, oh, we could save money if we eliminate this much of our workforce. And you just, okay, just don't tell me who. I don't need to know their story. I don't even know that they moved here a month ago because we stopped work from home and then we're going to fire them. It's just like, come on, man.
I
But
mean, it's not, it happens anywhere. Like, we had
mhm,
something very similar at work, at my work, and I work for the government. Like, I work for a branch of the government, and we have this system. We had this system where they would hire extra help employees where they weren't full-time employees. They would only work for like 6 months at a time, yada yada, and all that. And they were like, okay, well, we're just going to get rid of all the extra help employees because somebody fucked up the budget. And I was like, well, a why don't you fire the person who fucked up the budget? And what do you
Mm-hmm.
mean? We're a government agency. We have to function. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like it's profit based or anything like that. We're not trying to turn a profit. We're an essential service to the
Right.
state. Um, and also, you're going to fire all of these extra help people that you hired because we needed the extra help. What do you expect to happen to their workloads? You're going to give it to people who don't have time to do that. Especially in our department, we had a whole section that was dedicated to a specific job, and now that job is basically passed on to all of the permanent employees who have their own responsibilities. So all of that work is only getting done when we're not doing our normal responsibilities, which is not super often, to be honest. Like, we have maybe a couple hours a day of downtime where that work is getting done, and it's just going to pile up and pile up, pile up, and just is not going to get done.
Yeah.
So they're just looking at like, oh, well, I think it was particular at the beginning of the year. They were like, oh, well, we're going to have to start paying them more. So we're just going to let go of all of them. And it's like, okay, well, they were here for a reason. It's not like they were just here doing nothing. They were here doing something specific. And now that specific thing is not going to get done because you're trying to give it to people in the department who have other responsibilities. What do you
Yeah.
think is going to happen? It's just not going to get done. So it's just so
Yeah.
stupid.
It's exactly. It's people really gotta like. It's not even just like firing. Like I've seen so many projects where it's come to like, oh, this could be something good, and like they rush, they speed the project to get going, and then once the everything goes live, it's like it doesn't perform as expected. And I'm like, yeah, this is what happens when you launch something, within such a short time frame and expect to do big numbers. It's like it
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. It's like you gotta temper expectations, man. It's
Not
just
everything is going to be a Halo or a Call of Duty or a Fortnite or whatever. Sometimes it's just going to have a niche community that really wants to see the game do well.
it's rough. Yeah, there's just so much saturation of stuff too. It's like what's going to take your time. Like people talk about games that back in the day that performed well. Even like when every game had someone wrote into a podcast. I think it was MinMax or something. We're talking about like, do you miss the era of people doing quote unquote tacked on multiplayer to games? Like in the PS3 era, because that was like the thing to do before there were big like BRs weren't a thing, games as a service wasn't a thing
Mm-hmm.
outside of MMOs. And it was just like, oh yeah, here's a Uncharted multiplayer, and here's this game has some multiplayer. Here's multiplayer in God of War, stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it was kind of fun because you just play something. If it's fun, you keep playing it. But then it's like, yeah, everything now is so much trying to find that revenue stream, and then multiplayer in general is kind of gone from a lot of games. If it's not a multiplayer online game to begin with, they're not really
Yeah.
adding those modes anymore. I mean, like Tilo 2 doesn't have it. It's like there's no real. Sony's not putting out many games that could have multiplayer. Like there's rumors of the Horizon multiplayer game, but that's the focus of the game. It's not like, hey, here's Horizon plus here's a tacked on team deathmatch. Like they don't do that
Yeah.
anymore. And the argument too there back in the day from people was always like, well, why? Maybe if they took people off the team and didn't do Dead Space multiplayer, they could have put more quality into the main game. And it's like it's not always the case because typically you
No.
have enough people. It's like you take your extra folks you have on a team and say, hey, what if go do a design doc on if we did this and then see if it works. It's like it doesn't necessarily mean that you're pulling resources away you know from one side of development and it's going to really tank it because they did a tacked on multiplayer, which is such a weird argument back then. But yeah.
And most of the time, those tacked on multiplayers were just like probably started as some kind of like in-house way that they were testing the game. I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and flesh this out and like release it as a pack. It doesn't need to be like a game on its own. It's just like, hey, this is what we
Mm-hmm.
use to have fun, and we're gonna just tack it on as like it works, so
Yeah.
we'll just release it and people will have fun with it and it lasts as long as it lasts. It's fine. but also you have the team to do that. If you keep firing the teams and make them smaller, obviously that's going to be the case of like, okay, well, we're not going to do a multiplayer because we just don't have the time to dedicate to it.
Yeah, I feel like people talk about a lot about if the games industry is going to have another crash, and it's like it feels like it. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly all these layoffs that's the crash. The crash is in the
Yeah.
workforce. It's no longer, it's not going to be like, oh, all the studios die. It's going to be like they're going to let a bunch of people go, and it's I don't know, man. It's hopefully this year. We'll see what happens this year, but yeah, it's going to be probably going to continue to be rough. It's already been a rough January.
I really hope, and this is kind of like me trying to see the silver lining out of it all, is like these people that get fired from these major companies for no reason whatsoever other than the executives aren't making the bottom line that they want. I hope that we see a lot more smaller studios come out of it, or just like even just like independent games and stuff, like a lot more of, hey, I used to work here and now I'm just kind of working on this on my free time because, you know, I'm unemployed, so I'm going to put this game out on Steam and I hope you enjoy it, and it's actually like really adorable and cute and good and stuff like that. So I guess silver lining to that is, because of, at least that I notice, because I follow a lot of indie developers and like indie publishers and stuff like that, it's a little bit easier to just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to work on something maybe with a few friends that I know, and we'll just put some little 3-hour experience together, stick it up on Steam for $10 and see what happens. Like, I hope that a lot of that happens and they at least get some kind of income out of not being employed at Blizzard anymore or something.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. Like I think about, there's a lot of people who like I've seen former Blizzard employees post stuff like maybe who stream or do whatever, will be like I was making well under market cap for my position, so I quit. They weren't part of the layoff, but like they had quit the company previously,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to a company that paid me what my job was worth, and it's like, yeah, how many people are being underpaid, and then like, and it's like the other thing too is like, you don't, I think about Rooster Teeth and how Bernie, way back in the day, in the early days, when he's like, that idea of if you're doing something in the internet business or entertainment, you go to California or New York or something, and he's like, but it's online. We don't have to do that. We could stay here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's the thing too. It's like, you don't have to be in, like, sure, you're in California for Activision. It's like, but you don't have to be there. Like, what would it be like if these companies were at a different state with like where cost of living is lower?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you don't have to worry about, because that's the thing too. It's like, okay, well, cost of living's high, so you should be paying your employees so they can actually live there to work at your company. But what if you went to a place where if someone made 50, 60, $70,000 a year, that was like really good because cost of living is pretty low where they are. Now, obviously, if they did that, that would drive probably cost of living up in that area, but wouldn't be like at a rapid rate as it is in like California in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's that'll be interesting if people did like move to other states. Yeah, because I'm curious. Like, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like Microsoft or even just Activision Blizzard could literally just pick any place in any state and be like, this is our city now. And this is where our studio is. This is where our employees live. And just everybody in that little town just works at Activision. Like, but if they have enough money to have a house and have a life and travel, and because they're just
Mm-hmm.
like in the middle of nowhere, to be honest. They live in
Yeah,
Blizzard Town or whatever.
yeah. You should just make your own little, yeah, your Blizzard town. Well, I was trying to remember the name of the hub area in the main one in Diablo 4. Just like call it some Diablo town name and like set up the infrastructure.
Or the
But
same
yeah,
thing that Blizzard, or not Blizzard, Disney does with that town in Florida that I can't remember the name of, where it's basically like, we generate money for this place, so we have say over the like infrastructure and the city layout and stuff like that. It's like they basically built up a town where a lot of their cast members and engineers and everything live in
Yeah.
Florida near Disney World, and it's like they generate all of the revenue for that place. So, but it's like a big mess right now because stupid ass DeSantis or whatever. But they're
Right.
like at war. But for a long time, that's what it was. Like we make all of the money for this county basically, so we have this little area of the county that we have say over. I feel like places like or companies like Sony and Microsoft and big places like that could do that and provide for their employees basically. I don't know, just a wild thought.
Yeah. Or again, like look at how was it with work from home? Places that still allow it. Like I think Insomniac still allows work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think about Oddworld Inhabitants, like Lauren Lanning and his team, like they were all before the pandemic. Like they were a split studio. Everybody was kind of all over the world working from home, and like that's how they developed Oddworld New and Tasty and Oddworld Abe's Exodus and whatnot. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and then so when the pandemic happened, it was interesting. They were already doing what studios were trying to do. It's like, well, clearly it's working. It's like, yeah, they're not churning out because their workforce probably isn't that huge compared to these other companies. But you got to look at that. Like, hey, if you just allow people to live where they can be comfortable, it's like just do that. Don't make them come. Like you got to realize, like, if you don't pay them, they're not going to fucking go to your place. Like, I can't imagine trying to live in LA or anywhere around there, like, and work
Mm-hmm.
for these companies if you're not making what you should be making. It's got to be a pain.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't basically.
Yeah, or you got to live with a bunch of people, and
You live with a bunch of people, or you live 2 hours away from your place of work and you just suck up the commute every day.
yeah, that was like anytime I'd listen to like anybody from IGN back in the day, it's like so many of them on the podcast be talking, and like they're all in San Francisco, and they all live together because they like live in a place, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
two people from IGN live together, and they have another roommate, and it's like because that's just what you have to do. Like you gotta you gotta just bunk up with a bunch of folks in order to be able to afford anything there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like it's like okay, this is rough. But anyways, I mean we'll see what other big or layoffs happen. Like I said, I'm sure Sony's gonna have one, but
Yeah.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there. All right, that's basically all I had for news bits. So we can go ahead and jump into what we've been playing. I know you've been making some big progress in Baldur's Gate 3. I
Mm-hmm.
was watching you play the other day, and you were doing Moonrise Tower. I had to stop for a second because I was trying to think of that game that you played. I was like, did I say that right? Because I kept calling your game you're playing called Moonrise something. But I saw you in there, and it was funny because you guys were running through, and then you leveled up, and then for like 30 minutes, I'm looking at that level up arrow next to your portraits, and I'm like, if these guys go up and fight Ketherick and they're still haven't leveled up, I'm gonna be so frustrated. And then you were like, you guys went like I think down into the dungeon, which is funny because like I totally didn't go down there when I did my playthrough. Like I just went up and to do the Ketherick fight after I
Mm-hmm.
killed the lobby, and then Mike's like, "Oops, I aggroed someone," and then he went down there, and then you're like, after that, you're like, "Oh, we leveled up from that." He's like, "Oh, we leveled up a while ago." I was like, "Oh, thank God."
I know. I didn't even notice. I wouldn't have ever noticed if he didn't really say anything because I was, I guess, distracted by the fact that he was like, oh, he was trying to get down to the dock. So I was like flying the camera around to see how to get down there. And he was like, I'm just going to go down in the dungeon. And then I happened to look over and he loaded in and everybody already had their initiative rolls. I was like, what did you do? So it was just like a cacophony of errors that made me miss that. And I thought we leveled up from that fight. He's like, oh no, we leveled up like a long time ago. I was like, oh good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that occurred.
Uh,
It's been a lot of that.
Yeah, because it's one of those games where like leveling up doesn't give you full HP, so you don't have that like that kind of reinforcement of the level up. They do have an effect that happens, but
Yeah.
typically you're used to like all my HP's at full, so all the red icons for my portraits are no longer red because my characters have their HP back. But yeah, So it sounds like you guys are in Baldur's Gate now. You're in Act 3.
Yeah, we're in Act 3. We've done a little bit in it, a lot of side quest stuff. The biggest one, I guess, that we did last night was we fought Ansur and did all of that, all of the story related stuff with that. And I just, it was kind of underwhelming for me because I posted about this on Instagram, but I will always continually be loud and annoying and repetitive about the fact that I don't want to fight dragons in fantasy games because it's overdone and I want to be their friend and get them on my side instead. I'm just like I'm tired of fighting them. I don't want to fight them anymore. It makes sense in games like Final Fantasy 14 is like my favorite one that it has handled it so far because there are good and bad dragons. So it's like, yes, I have to fight dragons, but they're bad, mean, uh, awful dragons, except for Nidhogg or whatever. It's like there's story around it, there's a reason for it and stuff like that. But I feel like with Baldur's Gate, that whole thing could have been way more impactful if you were at least given the option to try to soothe him or like repair the relationship or whatever, even if it no matter what inevitably ends in the fight. Like at least give it the option so that you're not just clicking through the dialogue like, yeah, it doesn't matter like what I say or whatever because he's just angry and it's going to be a fight no matter what. And they're just like two idiots basically. One has like no emotion whatsoever anymore and the other one's just angry that he has no emotion anymore, and it's just like, you guys are just, you're idiots, whatever, just clicking through it. But if you had the option to like, even if he doesn't come to your side and just like dies or whatever, at least it's like maybe there's a half fight where you fight him for a little bit but you're still trying to like talk sense into him. And I don't know, it's just, I'm over it. And I was annoyed going into that fight anyway because our, I don't know if this is supposed to happen, but our puzzles broke. Uh and we only did two of the puzzles before the door opened and we went down to fight him. And Michael was like, well, we could go do the other puzzles still. Like, you can still go in and do it. I was like, well, what's the point? The door's already open. Let's just go fight. Is this supposed to happen? I don't know. Did you do the puzzles? He was like, yeah, I did all the puzzles. So I just don't know what happened. And I was annoyed at one of the puzzles. The one with the, what was it? The paintings or whatever, where you have to go through and
Mm-hmm.
you have to see the chain of events, and then you have to banish
Them up.
the you have to get rid of the judge or whatever.
Mm.
But there's no like, from a mechanic and like gameplay standpoint, there was no lead up to uh how you get rid of the judge. Like, he's just there and it's like, oh well, he's obviously he's creating the smoke, so do I need to put something on the judgment thing to get him to go away? No, that's not working. I don't even have anything in here to pick up. And so we were trying like all of this stuff, and finally I had to use a scroll for a spell that I don't have to get him to go away. And it's like, well, what do you do if you just don't, have that? Do you just have to go back and level up a character to try more spells and stuff like that? There's no like, there's no hint, there's no like,
That's
uh
weird.
yeah,
Cause
and
I
we were
yeah, go ahead.
examining him and trying to figure out like what's he weak against, what we do. I tried the like wind thing to try to just kind of blow him away, and that didn't work. And Michael's like, I don't even remember how I got rid of him because obviously I was struggling to get rid of him. So he started trying too. And he was like, now I don't even remember how I got rid of him. I guess I had Gale with me. So I was just like annoyed at that there was no like, puzzles should be able to be, and so far have been able to be solved with just me, the character. You don't have to have like specific people in your party or specific things with you uh, to solve the puzzles, unless you want to get creative and see if there's other ways that you can solve them and stuff like that. But all of the puzzles that we've done so far, especially in the Gauntlet of Shar and stuff like that, which has had its own issues, but those were like, we ran into a lot of bugs in the Gauntlet of Shar, and I made a joke. I was like, the real Gauntlet of Shar were the bugs we found along the way.
Yeah.
So, um, so that, but it's like, he didn't. other than the ones that we had to like fight through, he didn't really do anything unless I got stuck. And then he kind of like went over and hinted like, "Ah, it's over here, look over here." Um but I just ungrouped from the whole party and just went and solved the puzzles myself. So the fact that we were both like standing around this thing, like using all of our spell slots and everything, trying to get it to go away, and I finally had to use a scroll, I was just like, I don't know. I was just annoyed.
Did you not have a? Because you run with Karlak and who's the other? Who's the
we
cleric of your team?
um it was Shadowheart, but we respect her to be a bard. So we've been changing up our
Okay.
team like as we go around. But I
Okay.
have radiant spells on my druid because I have them uh on my weapon or whatever. I have a radiant weapon and stuff. So I
Yeah.
used my long rest spell to try to get it to go away, and that didn't work either. Because I
Yeah. Because
used radiant stuff on him.
there's a couple spells like yeah. Because I used remove curse on the judge. Yeah. Because the puzzle well because I saw like the paint, like you examine the first painting when you enter, like that kind of tells you the thing, and then you remove curse on the judge to get rid of the shroud stuff, get the other paintings, and then put them in the place to get the fair punishment. Um, but there are a couple puzzles like that where like using like a remove curse or casting a spell on the object is the way to solve it. The game doesn't tell you. It's kind of like it's a D&D aspect of like, but I like because when I first got in there, I was like, I didn't really use remove curse a lot because there weren't any many instances. Like I didn't have it spec'd
Mm-hmm.
on Shadowheart,
Yeah.
but luckily you can just re put on spells that you've learned whenever, which is great. So because I at least had it, I put it on there when I was down in there. But there's like because I found Worms Crossing because did you find it naturally or did Michael take you down there?
Michael took me down there.
Okay, I was gonna say because like I was like, damn, because the story doesn't lead you there until way later.
No, yeah, which I found out later because I was just looking up more information about Ansur and seeing if maybe there was a way that you could change the dialogue or the outcome or anything like that. So I was looking it up, and apparently there is like a side quest that leads you down here.
Hmm.
But I think he tried to take me down there because I was kind of getting annoyed at some other stuff, and he was like, "Oh, we'll go do this really cool thing," and I was just like, "Why did you bring me to fight a dragon, though?"
Yeah,
I
because I was gonna say
appreciate that, but
yeah, because even when I got there, I was because I found the torches when I first went in there,
mm,
in the jail cell, in the jail area,
yeah.
but I didn't. I just saw them. I didn't do anything with them. And then later, when the story tells you about that place, if you have the characters and you do the certain choices, they tell you about it. Then I kind of looked. I'm like, okay, I'll do this, and I kind of solved it. But yeah, I guess if you don't think to use like remove curse, because again, there's another one, another side quest. I think it's in Act 3 where like uh I had before I got to the Worm's Way. I was trying to figure out. I'm like, oh, what if I do this? And like it worked, and like that's how I did the thing. I was like, oh wow, like I don't know why I didn't think about that sooner. And then so when I got to Worm's Way and I had the judge puzzle, I was like, oh well, I did remove curse on this other thing. Is how I solved kind of the situation. I thought was really cool to like the act of figuring that out is kind of like that solving that puzzle is like really fun in the other section. I'm like, okay, I'll just do remove curse and now it's on. But yeah, the other puzzles down there are Gale just solves the chess puzzle if you have Gale, and then which is annoying because I'm like I want to do that. And then the other one, and I don't know if you did because you said two already done, but there's one where it's like I think it's like there's three chests. There's like a couple. I think there's a bunch of thieves in the room, and there's like three boxes, and you got to like pick the right box or something like that. I think I got lucky on that. I
Mhm.
don't think I followed. Like I don't think I followed and read the directions correctly. Like on because it'll tell you like how to do it, like what the puzzle is. Like in the one room where it's like, oh, you got to fight the things and survive for a couple rounds. Like it'll tell you, but I forget what it was. But I think I just got lucky. I didn't like fully pay attention there because I was like really late at night, and I was also getting super annoyed at the fact that uh, every time I did the fight and survive three waves, like all of the guards in the floor above would aggro through the floor. So it's like it
Oh.
took fucking forever to go through each turn. It's like I can survive the 3 turns, but now I have to sit here and wait for the AI try to figure out how to path its way to me, which it can't, through 20 people in the floor above because they aggroed through the floor. And so
Oh
that
shit!
puzzle took
We killed
so
everybody on the
long.
floor above. So if it did that, I probably would have just closed the game.
Yeah, because what I thought to do, the first time I went there, I'm like, oh my god, and then I quit that night, and then I went to go do it the next night, and then I was like, okay, let's just get through this, and I like watched YouTube or whatever. But then I was like, in hindsight, I was like, I should have just gone over and just killed everybody and then gone down and done it. But like, I didn't want to at the time because like I'm not ready, I don't want to go up there because it's just going to be take even longer because I got to kill everybody, and like I wasn't ready to go fight Gortash. But yeah, it was that was a weird area. So at least it sounds like that got fixed, which is good. But interesting that the 2
Yeah.
other puzzles were pre-solved. It's kind of odd.
So we did the one where you survive the waves of the
Mhm.
Myrmidons or whatever, the elementals and stuff. Well, the elementals and then the Myrmidons. We did that, and that was actually funny because we killed them like way too fast. So for the last turn, they were all dead and like with one character. So we just had to keep passing our turns until the fight was over. So that was
Yeah.
pretty funny. And then we went and did the painting one. And then I was I was getting annoyed because there was no indication of like, okay, I have to put something, an item in this, but there's no indication. There's nothing that differentiates the paintings on the pedestals from the ones on the walls. So I didn't know you could just pick those up. Because you can't pick up the ones on the walls, and when you hover over them and you click on them, it's all the same interaction. So
Mhm.
finally, I was like trying to drag it around. I was like, okay, I guess I just need to drag it onto the pedestal, like physically drag it, because that's how we solved a puzzle earlier in the game by dragging items onto platforms. And Michael's like, no, 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 you just right click it and pick it up. I was like, why? Why? Make it different somehow. And he's like,
Yeah,
well, the pedestal, you have to put an item in there. I was like, yes, but there's no indication that these are the items that you can pick up because you can't pick up the other paintings. It's just like a weird
yeah.
game design thing that's like aggravated me.
I think they do that on purpose because the paintings are the ones on the wall, like are the clues for what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were playing multiplayer and someone just pockets them to sell them, then you're not going to know how to solve the puzzle. So I think like, okay, in order to prevent people from doing that, let's lock these ones to the wall so no one can do anything with them. Um,
But I mean,
which
even
is
in that
fine, but
case, you can still look at them in your inventory.
yeah, but I think like there because there are some other places in the game where it's like okay maybe there's a something on the wall that tells a story.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're first going to the Gauntlet of Shar, I think there's a couple of those like that. It's like okay, I can see why let's try to proof this dummy proof this for players by not letting them do that. But then like you said, if then you get that in your head, and especially if you're already frustrated, then you think like oh well if I can't do X then I can't do Y because it's looks like it's related, and yada yada.
And
But
the thing that I guess hung me up was because there was a similar puzzle in the Gauntlet of Shar where it's like, here's a pedestal, here's a clue, you need to find the item that you put in, but it's books. So it's like you go through the bookshelves and you read the books, but you can take the books off the bookshelf just like you can
mhm,
take any book in the game in that point into
right.
your inventory. You don't have to like do anything special with it. So it's like, okay, I'm looking for a bookshelf. I'm looking for like something that resembles what I'm supposed to be doing, or like something that symbolizes like an apple or gold or something like that, like something around that I can pick up that I know I can pick up. And every other painting in the game that you can pick up, you just pick it up. Like it's just a pick upable item. You don't have to like click
Mhm.
on it or anything like that. So it's just like, it was just like a weird mesh of like different game mechanics and game design things that made it difficult for, and I mean it may just be me, it may just be the fact that it was midnight when we were doing this and going down to the fight
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I'm also like already a little bit annoyed and sad because he's like, yeah, we're gonna have to go fight a dragon, and he's like, if it's any consolation, it's already dead. I was like, no, that doesn't console me in any way whatsoever, actually. That's sad. um so it's already kind of like that. So I don't know if it's because like I was fucking with the paintings or whatever, but I eventually got annoyed and just picked up all the paintings, and then I went to put the one in the pedestal. Well, I clicked the wrong one and I put the wrong one in the pedestal, so it like failed the puzzle or whatever. It spawned a bunch of stuff, which is not a big deal because we killed it really quick. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just, I'm an idiot. I'll just go back to the pedestal and put the right one in there and solve it. Well, it doesn't let you do that. I couldn't click the pedestal again, and then I moved the camera, and the door to Ansur was open, and there was a bunch of like zombies and skeletons in front of it. And I was like, look at all the crap that it spawned over there. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just my camera. The fact that I moved the camera over there, not my character, maybe it wasn't loaded properly. So we went over there and killed all the stuff that had spawned, and the door was just open. So it's like the chess puzzle and the treasure puzzle or whatever. We didn't have to do those. We just went down and talked to Ansor, and he was like, well, we can still do them. But it's like I could zoom my camera in. I was like, oh, I see the chess puzzle here. This other door is something else. Like, well, why would we go do those? The door is open. Let's just go through the door. So I don't know if it's supposed to do that or if it broke. And even Michael was like, that's super weird that it spawned stuff in the main hallway that didn't aggro us. We had to go and like do initiative to go fight that stuff, which we killed really quick anyway, because I think we're a little bit overpowered. I told him he's been cheating a little bit. He's been looking up like legendary and very rare gear that he wants for his characters. So his character's just a teeny weeny bit overpowered, but I was like, whatever. I don't even care at this point. It's pretty funny that stuff that he can do.
If it's some issue like it's sequence broken, like maybe like because you didn't go there through the natural means, like you just went there with the knowledge of, he knew where it was. So I'm curious, like if you had gone down the actual, because what kind of conversations do you have with Answer when you go down? Like, does he tell you the story? Like, who? Okay,
you have the whole thing with him and the Emperor and everything like that. You have that whole
still happens,
cutscene, everything. Okay, and you have the normal conversation with him, and I don't know about that, because the fact that you can just kind of stumble upon it and be like, okay, there's something weird with these two little things. This wall is obviously a door because it's lit a little bit differently than the other textures that are here, so they obviously have to do something with it. So you could, like, even without the knowledge of how to get down in there or having somebody walk you down there, I feel like you could still brute force your way into it.
I'm just wondering if because of all the updates, if it breaks, like, oh well, if you talk to Will and his dad and then you learn about it and then you go do it, the game like hits all the flags and then stuff works properly. Whereas like now it's like, because they hit so many update patches to fix other bugs, like you have no idea if a game that's huge, like, does this have a knock-on effect to something else? And now it's like, oh, like, because you talk about the, I didn't have those problems with the two things broke. And you're like, oh well, the two things are broken. It's like, I wonder if like you loaded up a previous save, did everything else, talk to Will, save, did all that stuff, and then do it, like, would it break? But like that's just too much QA to do. But it's like, I'm curious, like if because like Izzy will talk about too, like some issues he'll have, and I'm like, that's so weird because like I didn't have any this and that. So but he's playing on a different platform as well. So
we had a different issue too that Michael was like, that didn't happen in my game. I don't know what the hell happened. We were trying to get to the Mystic Carrion. So he kind of like, oh well, let's go down here because this guy, he has like a shop or whatever, and I want something that's from him. I was like, okay, whatever. I usually ask him too. I was like, is there actually a quest or a story involved with this that I want to do? And he'll be like, yeah. I'm like, we're gonna do that because I want to know. But with this, he was like, no, not really. It kind of like reveals itself later on after you find him. It's just something that you could find in Baldur's Gate. And I was like, okay. So he goes down there and he lockpicks the door and opens the door, but we have Shadowheart. At the time we had Shadowheart and Asterion in our party, and so we got to the door and they were having like a funny kind of like exchange between each other. So I was watching what they were saying and listening to it and laughing or whatever while he was lockpicking the door, and the door opened, and while Asterion and Shadowheart were having their little back and forth, the Mystic Carrion just comes bolting out of the door and starts fighting us. And we were like, hi. He was like, well, I don't want to fight him. I don't know what happened. And so we had to like we didn't have a save near that because he didn't know that he was going to come out and fight us, so we had to like go back a little bit and do some stuff that we had done on the way there. But and then we quick saved right before just in case, and we were just kind of, he was kind of like looking it up too. He was like, I don't know if we did something that earlier in the game that's going to make him mad at us, so he was like trying to do all this troubleshooting stuff. And then we opened the door the same way and just walked in and everything was fine. We were like, why was he so mad the first time? He
Yeah.
just came, he was so mad. We opened his door and he came
He didn't like
running.
Astarion and Shadowheart's conversation. He's like,
Yeah.
no, I disagree. I need to tell you.
I was like, Shadowheart needs to stand over in the alleyway because she called him stinky and he didn't like that. So I made her stand like kind of far away. It was like,
That's funny.
I made them stand over there and have their conversation. I was just like, that was so weird. Just like little stuff like that. Like, and I mean, of course, we have the funny bugs like texture bugs and stuff like that. There's, I guess, some merchant or NPC or something where his face is always, his texture is always fucked up. And so we went on my game and Michael's like, yep, his face is still fucked up. I was like, that's not very nice. And then I talked to him.
Which vendor's that?
It's the Iron Hand Gnome vendor. When you go in their little, their hideaway underneath.
Must be a new thing.
He's like at the forge or whatever. When you click on him, his polygons deload every now and then, and his face like loses all texture, so he just looks like a PS1 character. And I was like,
weird.
That's interesting. But Michael said it was fucked up on his game too. But I think when he was playing multiplayer, it wasn't messed up on somebody else's game. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. It's like a setting or something we have. I don't know. It was just very funny. I was like, that wasn't very nice. You can't be mean to people and their faces. And then I clicked on him too. I was like, oh, I see what you mean now.
I wonder if does he have a 1080 as well?
No, he has something different, but I don't remember what he has.
Yeah. I'm wondering like how much of it could be like it's just like a LOD issue. Like there's other stuff it's trying to do. It's like it's just something that doesn't hit it doesn't queue up in time or something like that. Like I'm curious. Yeah, like how many issues are just pipeline things that go through. So it's like versus like. Because I got the 4070 Ti, so it's like I wonder how much of that is like it's brute forcing the problems, and stuff's getting through quicker. Like I don't know. Like I'd be curious because again, that's that's interesting.
And
that's
usually a lot of stuff like that I tend to just ignore. Like it's kind of funny, but it's not really like ruining anything for me. And I'm not holding it against the game because I know that I'm running the game on a 6-year-old PC that's kind of a potato at this point. But I mean, stuff like sometimes in the background, the like depth of field stuff will flicker in and out, and the blur will kind of come and go and stuff like that. Just weird texture stuff. Like I'm not holding that against the game. It's when the game like actually breaks. I'm just like, okay, I just need to get through this. Like, let me just reload and try again because that wasn't the outcome that it was supposed to be. Kind of stuff. But
yeah,
there's just little stuff like that. But other than that, like. I have not actually tried to romance anybody in the game, but every time we go to long rest, somebody has their shirt off, and I'm like, what? Stop!
Aren't you? You're trying to romance Karlach, right?
Well, to some degree. I mean, I'm not like actively going after her. I'm just kind of
right
being nice to her, which is like so weird that she's the only character that is progressing how she's supposed to progress rather than like I think I've talked to Halcyon once and then I went to
just a horny man.
Yeah, I went to long rest one time and he was just like, I'm in love with you. I went, okay.
He's like,
I'm dating Lazel, so that's all. I was like, I'll go ask her, but
so you're with Lazel right now?
Yeah.
She won't like if you want to go with Karlach then, because she's one of the monogamous NPCs.
Yeah. I mean, I've broken it off with her, but like, when I, because I'm not trying to have like, I wanted to try to do like romance, not like physical relationships. So anytime they bring it up, I'm like, I'm good, thank you. But it was the one time like I was still with Lazel, and Allison's like, I mean, she can join. I was like, I'll go ask her, I guess. And then I just never came back and was like, okay.
Yeah.
But there's some like, it's so funny.
There's some funny interactions when you find like I can't remember if they're drows, but like the twins in that in
Yeah,
that
we
bar
talked to
who were
them.
like, yeah, and like depending on who you have in your party, like their reactions on like I think Lyselle's like super against it.
Yeah.
Again, she's monogamous, but it's so funny too. Like I've seen some scenes where, and which I haven't seen yet in my own game because I'm not far enough with Minthara, but like just some interaction where like, Lyselle's very much like she's for like, I want to taste you and smell you and this and that, and she knows what she wants, but Minthara is very much like super dommy mommy where she's like, but tonight you're mine, and like like you will be there, and it's like the some I forget, like some meme of like it was like some woman being like, some guy at a bar, she's like, okay, you're gonna take me out to dinner, you're gonna do this, and we're gonna go here, you'll
Mhm.
pick me up at 8, like just being super forward and like laying it all out, and like that's how Minthara is like. And there's this bit where if you go to the party, if you take the evil path, and you like, she's like, oh yada yada, this is fun, I'm surprised the goblins were able to do this and that, and he's like, but tonight I'm going to spend it with you, and then you could totally like not do that and say no, but then she'll be like, fine, but everybody else is going to be inferior, and people would die to have just a taste of me, and he's like, but don't come crawling back when you turns out you want more or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Minthara is just like, it's so funny like how much she's like, no, you're going to do this, we're going to do this. Like it's
Mhm.
funny how they have like a nice spectrum of
Yeah.
folks. Like Shadowheart's like super reserved because she's all about Shar in the beginning, and even afterwards, like then she kind of opens up depending on what you do with her path. And then Lizelle's very much like, no, this is what I want, I won't force you, but this is what I want. And then
Mhm.
Karlak's very like, she's just super excited to have any sort of connection to anybody, especially
Yeah.
and like her physical affection makes sense because she hasn't been able to be physical with anyone
Mhm.
uh because of her infernal engine. So it's nice how excited she is. So I'm really curious how, if you are intimate with Karlak, like what kind of conversations you would have with her. Like does she like, does it mean so much more to her, that intimacy, because she hasn't been able to be that close to someone in forever, and like what kind of conversations you might have. And there's this one Minthara interaction where like, when you're in a relationship with someone, like you can give them a kiss, like anytime you talk, you'd be like, I want a kiss. And then sometimes like Lyselle will be like, here now, and like she'll always be like she's not about the affection really,
Yeah.
she's just like, Joe, let's do it. But there's fun like Minthara, you'd be like, I want a kiss, and she'd be like, and she'll kind of do the same thing as Lyselle, like right at this moment, like you give you a kiss, and then your character like gets hit with like a 1d4 poison damage, and then you talk to her again, and you're like, I got kind of sick there for a sec. She's like, oh yeah, there was a poison on my lips, and she goes, a poison on your lips? She's like, I always put a little bit there to build an immunity, because you never know. And it's like, you should do the same. And it was just super funny. Like she's just microdosing poison, so she builds up resistance, and you kiss her, and you get hit with it.
Oh
I
my
just thought it was
god.
super funny.
She doesn't like warn you or anything like that.
Yeah, and
That's
there's
funny.
and these clips I see too online are funny because people have these weird mods where they like give her glasses for some reason, like, and then they also give her a different hairstyle where like her hair is down, and they also put in like they give her like some interesting gowns. I'm like, what's going on? You guys got some interesting character mods going on here for
Oh yeah.
Minthara. You want to give her that teacher look. I don't know what's going on, but you do you, I guess. But yeah, it is funny. It was funny because in Discord, you're like, everybody is like, it's so easy to romance people. Why do you need guides? It's like, I'm about to send you a compilation of women being rejected by Asterion because he'll definitely be like, he'll still flirt with you, but then they'll be like, hey, you want to do it? And be like, no, I'm not interested in you, especially if you don't, well, because you have to have your approval a certain way. But yeah,
I have my approvals very high with Asterion very early because he was in our party and
right,
I
yeah,
am playing a mean character, so he approved of everything.
mm-hmm.
But he brought it up at like the party celebration thing, the first one that you have, where I guess it's like the kind of the first time that you can really have that connection with characters. He brought it up and I just walked away. He was like,
Yeah,
okay, good night. And so from
yeah,
then on, it's just kind of been like they're just besties now. And I was like, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted with
yeah.
them. I got it at that point. But and he doesn't like keep bringing it up or anything like that, which I appreciate. But yeah, they're just kind of like besties now. But yeah, he brought it up like almost immediately. I was just like, it was the first character that I was like, you're being a little forward. I don't. Okay, I'm gonna go to bed alone. Bye.
Yeah, I do like his though, because that's, if you do that with him, like that's how you find the
The
scars
scars, yeah.
on his back. Like, so it's nice that his intimacy cutscene leads to further character development and learning stuff earlier than you typically would.
Mhm.
So I do like that. Like, it's obviously, yeah, you find out about it later because he wants to talk to Raphael in Act 2, and that's how you can find out about it. Or you can find it early if you have that relationship with him. So I do like
Yeah.
how they have that for some of the characters, like, hey, you know, this and that. And then Halson's so funny in Act 3 because he'll be like, I know you're in a relationship, but do you think, you know, this and that. And I think I was with Shadowheart, and she's like, if you want to climb Mount Halcyon, go ahead. I can understand. So I was like, all right, Halcyon, let's go. Give me that bear, baby. And then I gotta see all these. I got the Emperor trophy, man. I'm just saying. But and then yeah, it was funny. And I like how some people are like, why don't more people react to the Emperor situation? And then I'm like, that would be kind of funny because they do see. But yeah, it was funny. And she's like, so how was it with House and yada yada? And you can have that's a fun conversation. But it's so funny how Shadowheart's just very much like, I understand the appeal. If you want to go ahead, like she's all how open they are. I think that's so. She's so cute about it too, the way she talks. And then
hers is funny too because she is so reserved in the beginning, and then you get to that point in the game, she's like, yeah, I get it, go for it. You're just like, oh, all right.
Yeah, have some fun. Yeah,
I expected you to be the monogamous one, but okay.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't sleep with the twins. I don't remember if she was for or against it, but we didn't do that.
You can, yeah. I've seen people post about that.
Yeah, we didn't. I did do. Did you? Oh, I guess it's in Act 3, so I won't spoil it. Never mind. There's. Yeah, I won't say it. Okay. Maybe Michael will push you a direction. I don't know. But so yeah, it sounds like you did that early, and you're in. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff in Baldur's Gate. Like if you do, depending on what you have, if you, especially with the Iron Hand gnomes, and if you help the one guy the whole time and he didn't die, there's a lot of stuff there. Yeah, there's a lot because there's a lot of content.
Yeah, we've kept as many NPCs alive as we can. Especially like I have Jahara is in my camp. Daymalin and Isabella are in my camp. And
her design's so cool. The cracks,
so awesome. Yeah, like the Japanese pottery with the gold in the cracks. I know, it's just so awesome. So we did a thing with her too in the magic shop. We did the magic shop stuff.
Yeah.
For her, and then we did it for Gale too. We did some stuff for Gale
in there. Wizard Tower.
Yeah, in the magic shop, and then he went and I took him to talk to Mistra and did all that stuff. So we have just like kind of side story stuff left. Trying to find the pieces of the clown.
Yep.
Trying to find the pieces of the clown. I need to do the fireworks shop and just little stuff like that. But we still have
the murder mystery you have to deal with in the church.
Yeah, the murder mystery.
I like that
thing.
I like that.
That's been fun.
That quest is really fun.
And we did reload at some point, so both Gortash and Orin, is that her name? Orin, are both still alive, and like, yeah, she kidnapped somebody, and
who'd she kidnap for you?
Halcyon, which I don't know.
That's funny.
I don't know why, because he just like appeared in a sewer. I was like, this is you're the crazy murder lady. You're not. I don't know what this is, but I did that on accident while Michael was in the shower, so I haven't told him that yet. So, but yeah, I don't know what determines who she kidnaps, but it was Halcyon for me for some reason. Unless it's like the last person that you had like a private conversation with, maybe.
I don't know. I think it might. Yeah, because for me it was Lizelle. Which annoyed me because I wanted to go do all Lizelle's side story stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's right, I have to go save her first because she got kidnapped. I think it might have been Lae'zel for Isley as well. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's like based on. Yeah, I don't know what decides it. That's why I'm really
Mm.
curious. Like, well, I guess if on my evil run, it has to be Lae'zel because there's no way Jahir's not going to stick with me. I'm not going to get the other one that you get in Act 3 if I'm doing the evil playthrough. And then the only person who's left in my party is going to be Lae'zel because I subbed her out for Minthara. And so I'm like, okay, it's just going to be Lae'zel again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm curious what decides it. And I think there's a time limit, but I think it's like, if there is, it must be super long because I didn't go and rescue my psych. Because first you have to figure out, okay, where are they, yada yada. But I was like, I'm doing all this other stuff first, and I'll get down there eventually. But yeah, I really like that the crime mystery bit. I've talked about it before back when I was playing, but yeah, I like that one. That's fun. Looking for the clown parts, man. That was like, because some you just find, and then it's like
Yeah.
I think the last one I needed, I forget which part it was, but I love that church that you go to where Gale talks to Mistra, and if you go in the basement and you steal and you come out and the one gnome's like, you gotta leave. you done stole from the box. Those are offerings. And I'm like, and which is I wish I didn't do because he's a vendor, and I'm like, ah, damn it. And I'm like, well, oh well, this guy's not a vendor anymore because I stole from the box, but I like the item I got.
Ours
So I thought
was,
that was
we got away with that because Michael was doing that while I was having Gale talk to Mistress. So I was having that whole cutscene, and then I came out of the cutscene and he was gone, but then he popped out next to the cellar thing. And I was like, what you doing? Because I could hear all of these like checks and stuff going on in the background. He's like,
fun.
nothing, don't worry about it. And then he came out cursed, and I was
Yep.
like, okay. And he was like, do you have remove curse? I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it, and blah blah blah. And then I removed curse on him, and this fucking thing popped out of him, and he was like, oh, I didn't know that happened. And then so we kill the thing, the angel thing that pops out of him, whatever. But there was an AoE on the ground that we had used to kill him, and when the fight was over, some random NPC just walked through it and died, and they were like, you're accused of murder, and then they threw Gale in jail. And I was like, all right. So we had to reload because we could not figure out how to get him out. And I was like, I can't deal with this right now. So we had to reload and do all that again. I was just like,
That's funny.
no more AoEs in town. Stop it.
There's this funny bit where there's like I think it's not related to the murder mystery, but like you come across this body, a dead body at some point. It's for a different thing, and it's got a curse on it that has like an AoE damage. And there's this thing that someone would do back in the when it first came out, where they would have like a paladin with like high constitution and something else, and then they put the body in a box and the paladin would carry it. And because the paladin had like high skill stat or whatever, it's like there would be a saving roll that they would do every time they might take damage from this dead body's AoE, and they would just essentially never get hit with it. But they would walk past all the NPCs, and all the NPCs would just take damage and die. So like they were this plague just walking through the town, just killing everyone. It looked so funny in the video, but no one would yell at him because the people would just die from the AoE from this cursed corpse, which I thought was so funny.
Yeah, which was so weird because it's like, well, it's just an AoE, but I guess like because it was an AoE that one of my characters put down, they were like, you, right. And we didn't know like who they were accusing.
Fingerprint the magic.
Yeah, and I was like, whatever. This is not the first time I've been accused of murder. Like, this is not the first time somebody's tried to put me in jail. I was pushing children a lot in the early game. But they were like, you can't bribe your way out of this one, so you have to either attack or go to jail. I was like, whatever, I'll just go to jail and figure out my way out. But then they put Gale in there. I was like, well, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, he's funny.
Very
there's
silly.
Oh man, what was it? I totally lost my train of thought because I was thinking of his cat. Man, I totally lost my train of thought of what I was going to talk about in that area. Darn it. Oh well, maybe it'll come back to me. But yeah, that's a fun area. The one thing, how was your performance in Worms Crossing when those earthquakes are going on?
I think it was okay. I mean, obviously the screen is shaking and stuff like that, but it wasn't really like stopping me from moving my camera around or doing things. So I think it's running okay. I haven't really had I've had instances of like my frame rate dropping or be like kind of sluggish in some areas, but it seems like for some reason the Githyanki crash that was pretty rough wandering through there. I felt like my frame rate was really dropping in there, but it's just been kind of like random places and random cutscenes and stuff. Like every now and then it'll really dip, and I'm like, oh god, she's killing my frames. Um, but I remember you guys were talking about, especially Isley was talking about issues in Act 3, so I've kind of been like on the hunt for it. But usually when the earthquakes happen, it's either slowing down and I don't notice it because the whole screen is moving, or it's just not really like affecting it because my characters are still, I'm still able to move the camera around, I'm still able to click on stuff. So
Yeah, it's mainly in when you go to Warner's Crossing, and it's that merchant section right before you get to the bridge, where
mhm.
that's like where performance was really taking a hit for people on PC,
Oh,
where it's like it would just, even if you just stood still and rotate the camera, like it would just totally tank. So
oh no, I
that's
didn't
really
have any
what they
problems like that.
yeah, they've done a lot of patching there. So that's like you would have noticed it the most there,
Mhm.
outside of just the earthquake bits. But so that's good. At least that seems like they've definitely ironed that out. But yeah, there's some fun stuff in Act 3. Like I was surprised that, again, I talked before, but I was surprised people thought like Act 3 was so short. I was like, man, I felt like there was just a ton of content because there's like so much side stuff. There's so
Mhm.
much, you know, even story stuff, like main story stuff. Like you feel like you're doing a lot.
I mean, yeah, we spent pretty much all day yesterday in Act 3, like getting into it and like finishing up the very end of Act 2, getting into it, and then doing all that stuff. We've barely really progressed the main story at all. There, we spent
Yeah,
yeah pretty much all day in it.
yeah. Yeah, I haven't been playing too much. I played the Factorio demo a while ago. I think I talked about it last episode. And then I picked it up. I was like, okay, I'll just pick it up. But my problem is it's not just a mouse game. Like I can play Auction Not Included with just the mouse. I don't need the keyboard.
Hmm.
And I have like a pause and rotate bound to my mouse, so I could do those because it's the only function I really use on the keyboard. But I was like, oh damn, I have to use the keyboard to play Factorio. So I played a little bit of Factorio, played some of that, not a ton. I did like the tutorials for a bit, which is what the demo is basically, just do the tutorials. And then it's like one tutorial like sends me in, and it's like the tutorial progression felt kind of normal. It's like, okay, do this. And it's like, okay, now you're done. Now the next bit. It's like, okay, now you're done. And then do some more. And now it's like, oh, go here, get the power gun. It's like this old base that used to be there from someone else. And it's like, okay, this is just too much. Like it's like,
Jeez.
repair this. And it's just like so much shit there, like the railroad tracks and all this other stuff. I'm like, okay, you can't just drop all this on me. Like, make
Hmm.
me build this stuff. Don't make me repair the stuff because I have no idea what the fuck's happening. I'm like, okay, let's just drop into a new game. And then I start playing. I'm like, okay, here we go. And I did a little bit of that. I also tried Hard Space Shipbreaker is part of PlayStation Plus, or maybe extra or something. And I was like, this month, so I added that on PlayStation. I did start that, but I haven't gotten too far into it. But I definitely want to give that a shot. That game seems kind of fun. And then I have been playing a lot of Escape Simulator.
Oh
Northern Lion
yeah.
and crew had started playing it, and I'm like, I watched them play a little bit of it, and I was like, you know what? It'd actually be kind of fun to play the rooms that they're playing first, because they when they were first playing, they did like a lot of brute forcing of stuff. And I'm like, well, I'd really like to know like what the actual solution is. And so I was like, okay, I'll see what level they're gonna play. I'll play it first, and then watch them play it, so I can kind of also compare like how quickly did I solve it versus how quickly they solved it. So that's been a lot of fun, especially when it's like seeing who gets hung up on what versus what maybe if I got hung up on anything, and
Hmm.
just watching them like totally just not do stuff correctly. It just makes it so much more entertaining, um, doing it first and then watching them. It's so much fun. So I've been having a lot of fun playing Escape Simulator. That's a fun game, and that's mainly what I've been playing. And then I re-rolled a new colony on Auction Not Included, because I was like, well, I gotta play something that's, again, easy to play when I got the kid in here with
Hmm.
me. But yeah, I want to play more Factorio, but I need like more time, because so much of that was like, okay, let's set up the infrastructure,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, all right, there we go. I also forgot it was like, I guess, a multiplayer, because I found a old playlist of NL and crew playing it like 5 years ago, and I'll watch them play, but they're like playing with some mods, and also it's like it's from 5 years ago, so some of the UI stuff isn't the same, and maybe some of the meta isn't the same. But I was like, I'll just kind of watch them in the back, like not pay attention, but just to have it in the background because they got like a good amount of episodes. So that's doing that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't played too much of anything else. I'm trying to see if I took any. Pretty much it. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I was playing. I was hoping Izzy would get that computer that way we can play, because I'd like to play Escape Room multiplayer. That'd be kind of fun. I also maybe Factorio multiplayer would be interesting, but there's also a couple other games I want to play. I also need to play more Core Keeper. I gotta see if I can. Does that have controller support? I can't tell because I don't have mine plugged in.
I'm pretty sure it does, because it either does or it will, because it's coming to Switch later this year. So it either already has controller support or they're getting ready to add it. There's going to be a new update at the end of this month, I think on the 31st. I just happened to see on the community page it's going to be a pretty big update. So if it's not already in there, maybe they're going to add it then.
Yeah.
Test it before it comes out on console, maybe.
Yeah, I still want to play Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, but I'm waiting to do that. And then there's a game called Last Train Home that came out end of last year that I want to play. That's on Steam, but I have it on my wish list. I still want to play Viewfinder. That's on sale right now, so I could get that play. That's pretty short. I want to play Talos Principle 2, and then I think I know the Nightingale beta happens at the end of February. So I'll be curious. The early access rather. So I'll be curious to see when that comes out. I might give that a shot and play some of that. But I'm probably just going to play more Escape Simulator. I don't know if I'll play more of it now because I went through all the content that they've currently done. I'll probably wait and see if NL maybe if he does any more solo runs or if they do more group runs, and then just wait to do it then. But yeah, and I want to play more Factorio and everything. I just need like a day where I could just play nothing but Factorio. That way I can, because I know that again, it's going to be one of those games where it's like, okay, I'll build stuff, and then, something go wrong, I'll die from the aliens or something like that, and yada yada. And I'm like, okay, gotta re-roll again, and then try to figure out, okay, how can I streamline? It's like the same process I did for Auction Not Included, where it's like, okay, I know how to get up and running to the first like 50 cycles, this and that.
Yeah, it's just getting a little bit further every time.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and just call it. We've been going on for quite a while. And I got some things I got to do today, so it'd be good to jump on some other chores I got to do ahead of time. But anyways,
I have a lot to catch up on from playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, that's right, we did. And then the Layoffs also took a big chunk as well. But all right, well, we'll go ahead and call it there. So thank you all for tuning in and listening. Thank you, Zaya, for joining. And we'll see you all next time.